Afternoon, guys. Hope everyone's doing good. Good day today, right? I think it was more of a passive day. I did have a slip up today. I want to cover that first on SMCI. Um, and really, I mean, the stock looks pretty decent just in this box or this low that we're forming here. We are seeing kind of signs of accumulation at this low. I think it was kind of front running leading into the split that they had on October 1st. Remember, we were a part of this as well. I ended up closing out, I think, on one of these days here. It was either Thursday or it was Monday for a pretty decent gain after like scalping this low here. But we ended up getting a nice continuation bar on Monday where we really broke out and filled that fair value gap and really pushed. I would just kind of call this our footprint candle high. And then I was looking, if you guys remember, I kind of posted it in the entire pre-market session. We were opening right around the daily gap fill at 51.35, just at this red line here. And I wanted to see us essentially have a harmonic break, which was this bar here. I wanted to see us rip through, divergent pullback, hold, and then rip back through, right, to actually get the actual fill, right? The daily gap fills here, but the actual fill from close to open, right from here to here, is much, much higher at 54.76, and I wanted to see if we can get that pullback and then take 55 C calls or 55 calls for like 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. And I was just a little bit overzealous on that. It wasn't the most extensive loss in terms of position sizing, but I tried to bid 1.65 because I saw a big, big buyer there trying to bid that spot, and it almost looked like it was lining up perfectly with 48.59. If we go to the 15-minute, right, this was also coinciding with that high, right around that high from Monday. I would expect buyers to hold that, and that's where I saw that bid, and I was like, okay, so as this is falling, you guys can clearly see it rejected 51.39, and we sold really quickly down into this spot. Basically a 2% move, or I'm sorry, 5% move in less than like a minute. I think this was the first minute candle. It looked almost too good to be true. I think even on the minute we saw a bounce off of that. Yeah, so even on the 1 minute chart we did see a bounce off of that. It just didn't stick. But I got my bid fills not as we hit the level, it was more so as we kind of went through. So as it started to break through, a ton of these orders got filled at like 1.65. And then it just continually moved down and sold down into this white line. And I was willing to risk the white line, but I didn't want to add into that one just because I didn't feel comfortable with it. But that was essentially those previous highs, right? This was a high or like an internal range within this box that we currently have. And I wanted to see if it could hold 43.80, and it did, but move didn't stick, right? And we were kind of slowly making lower lows, right? I mean, this was incremental, but you guys can kind of see the trajectory here. We were just sloping down. Contracts were like 42% red, and I just didn't want to add into them. Obviously, end of day, we did get a pop on those, and if you guys had a better entry, that's what I said. Hey, this could actually be a really good spot off 43.80, but I had a pretty shit entry somewhere within this red candle at 1.65. Contracts were like in the 90s or right around 1.0. So I just didn't feel the need to add exposure onto this name, especially since it wasn't really a planned trade. It was more of like a pre-market watch. So I took the loss on that. I kind of showed you guys I was down like $400 to start the day. But now we can really just dive into what did well, because there were a lot of things that went well today. SMCI did start the day in not the greatest fashion, but Crowd, I did add on this one today, guys, the contract rolls. So if you guys join me with that one, congratulations. These already had a 20% premium pop. And Crowd's a little weird, guys. I think like everything that's a little bit dated, does have that wild spread. I went further out and I did pay a little, kind of a pretty penny for this one, around $700. But I did that because of the spread on pretty much every contract. If this does have a pullback, I can easily add into these, and the pullbacks won't be that drastic, right? This one had a tighter spread than most, and if it does pull back to this like 285 spot, those contracts will probably hit like 6.20, and then I can add more, right? And then I'm just viewing this as like a good opportunity to get time into December where I can slowly add into this one versus some of the more spreadier names, or not names, but strikes and expirations. I think the November ones, guys, were still right around 0.20, 0.30. Dude, it's pretty bad. And I think this name is A plus. I just think that the options premiums are a little bit janky, but yeah, this was really good, guys. I mean, this ended up breaking above 285, as you guys saw yesterday. We held the bottom of the progression gap, closed above the top. Right, it's going to take a couple days of rest and to really have buyers bid and support this spot here from 285 to 290, and then eventually what you'll get is a walk up, right, where you'll have it trading in this zone here, and really what you want to see is that first bottom of that progression gap be support, breach the top, and then get a close above. Typically what you'll see is like maybe a pop out day, which we had today, and then another pullback. And as long as the daily close or the open ends up holding there, that's when you'll see your move off of that upper progression gap, right? So tomorrow I would like to see us open now above 290, right? Or maybe pull back and that be the low of day, and then it kind of defends 290 and then pops. But today it looked like it doesn't need to have a pullback, so it just looked really good off like the 15 and the hourly. I showed you guys why I took this position, right? I mean, it's right here. You guys were clear. I mean, I posted the chart. It was consolidating right off of 290 yesterday, and we had a lot of the consolidation off 285. So I wanted to see a candle open above 290, right? We ended up opening right here. We dipped down to 290 and held, and that's when I took the position. And then we pretty much just had a launch pad off of that up into what is that level? 295, right? So literally almost a 2% move or $5 in a matter of 2 hours. Obviously, we pulled back a little bit into the close, but I mean, target still on this one remains 300. So I'm going to be pretty relaxed with my trims. I'm not going to trim this one nearly as quick. This one is, right, remember last time we added so low down here, we wanted to hold majority for 290 and then runners for 300. Now I'm going to hold majority for 300, runners for 316, right? And that's kind of how I'm viewing this. But overall, good little start on this one. The contracts that we had, and I still have the runners of back here from this 270 ad, they're currently up like 116, 120%. So really good trade on that one. So that's good. And I told us not to take our eyes off of this one, and I think I'm pretty right in doing so. AMD now. This one I didn't feel comfortable taking like a new position. I never do, guys, with these. These are always weird. Like I like gaps, right? But I don't like gaps. Excuse me, when they're this high up. It just feels. It doesn't feel right from a pricing perspective. Like I talked about, juice isn't necessarily worth the squeeze. I mean, we only got 6 points to the spot. And like I know in people's natural tendencies to just overload calls and try to get as much money with as much size as you can, right? And it just kind of feels like a free pass to get up there. And it's not how that works, right? And also you have to realize we have CPI coming up, we have PPI, we have a lot of like data that can heavily sway some of these positions overnight. So I really didn't feel a need to add into this, even though 169 was doing really well. I kind of posted in chat like, hey, there's an opportunity here if you guys want with these higher lows forming, right? We ended up kind of pulling back and almost retesting 169.80. I know back here we had our higher lows form off of that, which is why we got our gap up. But it did pull back again, right? Kind of pushed out lower high, and then for what should have been a lower low and a retest of this 169.80 level again, we ended up putting in another higher low overlay. I don't know how I reversed those. I'm tired, guys. Forgive me, forgive me. But yeah, this was another higher low here on the micro, and ended up pushing out for almost a high. I mean, it got a higher high here above that lower high, but it didn't break high a day. And then obviously it rejected, caught another higher low, failed lower high, sold down, and then it ended up kind of like still retesting 169.80 and holding that, and then a really nice trajectory up, right? I mean, there was clearly a buyer that stepped in on this 5-minute bar here, which is why that volume kind of came in, and we saw a large push off of that. I think that this trade is fine. It's just I don't think I'm gonna start a new position, guys. I really don't think it's worth the risk to be adding on much more size. I know, right? I talk about gap fills like this all the time. If anything, I mean, this thing would need to get a little bit more distance. I mean, dude, I don't know. I still think it's risky. It's $6. If this gap was a little bit wider, I probably would, but what I mean is creating separation against that and then having a divergent pullback. I think that would be worth it, but I probably won't do that. I think what I have left on the November contracts, or if you guys still have October 25th, those are still doing really well. Yeah, this should be a pretty clean mover up into that 176.80, 177 gap. Remember, AI event is actually on Thursday, so I would just say play this one safe. I'm going to be writing out what I have left on this one up until that spot. There's plenty of other charts in the semi sector that still look fantastic, and I've already emphasized that. And you could just essentially reposition and restart new stuff on that rather than taking something that's so high up, right, that has little reward for a lot of risk. And yeah, it just doesn't seem worth it, guys. So we'll let this one play out. I think I can get like an extra like I don't know, $1,500, $2,000 on what I have left on AMD. But yeah, this one's been really good to us, guys. This one has been fantastic, and I think it's almost time to say goodbye to AMD here shortly. Maybe 1 or 2 more days. Might be a sell the news type event. MU, not much has changed on this one. This is still in that like purgatory territory. I've talked about this where we did catch it technically off the 0.5, so we did have discount entry right here off of that peg, right? And this is one of those setups that doesn't need to fill the peg, but I would like to get a majority of my size here if it does. But yeah, it's just kind of pulling back down into the 921, right? This thing looks decent, but it does have potential here to be a lower high and really fail to push back into this 108 resistance or this 114 for a higher high. But you know, I do have some exposure here. If we can maybe consolidate a little bit more, I might add like 3 more contracts. Still, and I want to emphasize this, majority of my size will be reserved for the 618 pullback in its entirety, and then I would risk that 90.97, right? That's a big, big, big spot, right? And I want to be as disciplined as I can with this one, so that way I feel comfortable you know, having a good size position on this one and being able to hold. If I add too much here, right, it's going to be obviously uncomfortable to let this thing pull back $6.50, right? It'll be pretty drastic. So still staying patient with that one. What I do want to emphasize today, though, Lam Research looks pretty damn good. I drew this out. I can't remember when. I know a couple people are on this chart with me. Nobody on FinTwit's talking about this one, which is fantastic, right? But this is a candidate very similar to SMCI, where like these names that were very, very high cost basis, right? Like SMCI was $400, $500. Lam Research was $700, $800. It's a very high price point even for big money, right? So the fact that the split, there was signs of accumulations prior to the split, and a lot of that inventory has now been collected and has been distributed to the big buyers, right? They own pretty much everything. So the markup phase of this should be pretty easy, especially with continued buying here. I imagine this is going to happen relatively quickly when it does start to go. But yeah, this progression gap here that I mentioned has really been either a support or a resistance over multiple attempts and kind of pullbacks. And now, more recently, right, we're pulling back and now forming a higher low off of this general range here. And tightening of spread and tightening of EMAs, volume's really low. You're not really seeing a new low being made. So I don't think this is in jeopardy of having a lower low forming out underneath this 73 spot. So I might size into this one, guys. I really like this trade. I posted in the general chat that I didn't put it in like an official alert that I did take one contract. With how this is looking now, though, I think this one's ready. So I'm probably going to be taking like 5 to, I would say 7, maybe 8 contracts. I don't know what Oh yeah, it's pretty far out, guys. You guys don't have to go as far as me. I went into the Junes. So, yeah, those are pretty expensive. So if you guys don't want to take those, I totally get it. Maybe Marches, but I do think this is going to be a 2025 stock. So, yeah, definitely want to get some time on these, but I've already talked about this. Ideally, we get a pop out, right? We've talked multiple times about progression gaps and how these work. So I want to see a pop above 83, pull back, hold 83, look for a continuation and a higher high above this lower high, and then really push towards this weekly resistance here, right at like 89.50. And remember, that's the reason I want to get time, because I want to be able to survive stuff like this if it chops. But ultimately, I think that this can push 101.92. All the way to 106, and 106 is probably the sweet spot. If you guys also wanted to take shares, I mean, this is also a 30% on the underlying, so pretty safe and smart decision on that one, in my opinion, and well worth the risk to reward, right? If you just take this via shares, right? I mean, this turns into a pretty simple trade, guys. I mean, I think I might take shares just looking at that. It's almost a 4R. So beautiful chart here. I think this one's going to work out. Only other thing, right? I mean, shop. I unfortunately closed these out. Remember I told you guys we got this big nice day on Friday all the way to 83.5, and then I closed out like an idiot. Monday just ended up being an inside bar or a rest day that consolidated against that high that had been broken. We talk about this all the time. You just want to see harmonic breaks of resistance and divergent pullbacks or divergent inside bars, right? Just really these clean rest days or these clean pullbacks that are mitigated, that don't reverse the volume that is required to break through resistance levels. Otherwise, right, if you're matched volume and it starts to come down, that could be signs of distribution on that prior bar. So this held pretty nicely above 81.5, which is that previous high. I don't know if I don't know, guys. This is weird. I don't know if I want to take this one. It really is extremely weird. And I don't want to take the gap trade, right? So we'll see if this can maybe pull back one more time to 81.15. Or give us like some kind of like higher type flag here that doesn't come all the way to 81.15 but just pulls back a little bit. I still want to keep this one on watch. And also there's a couple other ones that look pretty fucking good. I mean, I told you guys I had Roku. I alerted that in the Discord. I ended up taking 3 and then I closed 2. I got stopped out of the one contract I had yesterday. I probably should have just held all 3 contracts, but this did exactly what I thought it would, right? And just pretty chart, right? I mean, this is just consolidation here against those highs. Ultimately, without any sell pressure, you're going to continue with that trend. So ended up getting a pop to 78.61, which is the top of that daily gap. This still has ton of room. I would actually entertain this one in the gap just because this is what I was meaning, right? It's not necessarily like AMD where the gap is only 4 points ahead and there's a lot of risk versus the reward. This has a ton of room, right? This is to the daily gap fill, which is $12, right? We'll just round that down, or 16% on the underlying. And if we actually go to the real gap fill, it's $16 and 20%, right? So hopefully you guys understand, like that would be still worth the juice or the risk if you can get an entry in this gap here. So I'm still watching this one. And then another one too that I just want to talk about. I just took shares on this one. This one might be ready. Remember I've talked a lot about internal and external ranges where we had this old external here at 29 or 24.59. I wanted to see us hit this, sell off on mitigated volume, and then catch a bid off 21.98. That's technically 22. We'll round that. And we caught right here. And this is when I added shares. If you guys remember, I posted it in the comments section or the share section. We had a really nice consolidation here. Virtually no selling, no indication that we were going to break below that. And we held. And today we had our first bullish bar, right? Very, very bullish bar. Good volume behind that after that mitigated sell pressure. This looks like it's good to continue. We just want to see it push through today's high. And I think this obviously pushes through 24.59. Now, with that being said, I still want to play this safe. We've seen Intel do this time and time again, where it'll just kind of push up here. It's a lot of fluff, and then it'll continue to make a new low. So I really don't want to take options on this just yet. I still want to reserve my options trade for bullish continuation above that, right? 59 is huge if it can reclaim it. If it can reclaim that and it breaks through on harmonic volume, right, and then can pull back on divergent volume and prove it can hold this old low back here, guys, this is huge opportunity right here. Absolutely monster opportunity. Then you could really cut through this weekly bar. Obviously, there's a gap there as well on the daily, so this could be a really lucrative options trade that can happen rather quickly. It's about 17% or $5, and yeah, I mean, I think this one can absolutely move. So that's what I'm basically saving my options trade for. Equity is a little bit safer, and I got pretty much a bottom, if you will, or one of the better entries I can I guess talk about. I mean, this looks so good on the weekly, guys. So this one's about to go off, in my opinion. But yeah, just want to make everybody aware. I'm not avoiding the option on this one. I am still looking at options for this. Would just rather see 24.59 taken. But that's pretty much it, guys. I just wanted to cover everything. I mean, did I even cover QQQ? I know, this is one of those things. It's just I talk about it time and time again, and I think I should flip this over. To whatever this is. Let's see if I can. One sec, boys. I want to switch it over. We keep seeing these come in, and they are a little concerning. Hopefully you guys can see that, right? QQQ, we have signature prints coming at 481.9, and then if we take a look at SPY, 17 prints at 567.6. So we are seeing them continually bid this thing down. And I mean, part of me wants to say that doesn't always happen, but for the most part, what we've been seeing is it has been happening, right? This thing had those prints. If you guys remember, I told you guys to mark the bullish ones. They are right here at like 487.5. It sold down and ended up pushing right back up into that. This is looking distributive a little bit, but we're not really seeing kind of like a definitive mark of that, right? We're not getting a footprint candle. But yeah, I mean, if this can't like technically open underneath 488.28, I might entertain a short. I keep saying I'm not going to play the short side, but this could be pretty lucrative if I'm being honest, especially into a CPI or something like that. I know I said that last time with NFP, and I ended up wasting money on a five contract spread, but yeah, this is just so intriguing how this is kind of playing out. It's like we're continually absorbing this 288.28 level, but we're not breaking through it just yet. And the more that you absorb this thing and you don't break, you'll probably get a large amount of supply that hits all at once, sells this down, especially with the help of bidders, and then it marks back up through this zone. Really easy, right? This is like a path of least resistance type trade that I teach all the time. So this is going to be interesting, especially if we don't get any kind of like separation created in the next day or two off 488.28. What I mean by separation is like, remember, a big move away from the spot, right? And at that point, we'd probably already be at target there, but maybe something like this where it kind of pushes like that. If it doesn't do that, dude, and it doesn't pull back and hold that with some structure, dude, I don't know what I'm saying, guys. I don't know what I'm saying. Maybe I won't short this. I'll just kind of hold still, because this is pretty risky, but a lot of data is pointing to the downside, guys. That's all I really want to kind of talk about. But I think I'm just, I don't know. I don't really want to trade that downside, to be honest. I'd rather long 471, and I keep saying that. But at the same time, I do feel bad. I know there's some people that didn't really catch those December calls and things like that. But you got to realize just how risky this spot is right here, right in this gap, with only so much to go, right? I mean, dude, this is only $8. It's so risky, and yeah, I personally, I don't really care about putting an alert out that's a winner just to get a win under my belt for you guys. I'd rather me take the trade, me be safe in the trade, and thus you guys are safe in the trade, right? And make sure that it has good opportunity to have even more room to run than what we think is possible with very low risk. And this general range is just so risky, right? And like, even if I was a bear, right? Like this seems like a good short, but I mean, time has kind of told that right now and during this little period of flow, going into an election. Also, like I said, the Vana charm flow is back until like 8 or 10:16. So I mean, it just doesn't make sense to kind of fade this, but that's why I'm so conflicted. We're seeing these prints to the downside. Dealer Greeks are also positive, so dealers are kind of hedged for the downside, right? And then we had that VIX spike, we have CPI coming. I don't know. It just feels really weird. It feels like we could get some kind of like fake out into this gap where a lot of people are overexposed long. We get something that really drops us very quickly, where people will capitulate out of this, and then I'd want to grab that. And that's what I'm trying to be patient for. And I just got to be, like, gotta be honest, I might miss it with some new positions, right? I still have the December contracts. I still have those 3 contracts from that I took on this day back here, right? So those could have, you know, a decent move. Obviously the 500 calls for December are doing pretty well. Only have 6 of those, but I mean, I want to get a full size position, guys. I want to get like a pullback to this 471 and go 50 contracts, 60 contracts. I really do, but I can't be pulling that right here at 488. But I mean, there is potential. We'll see. I did say, right? I mean, I know I said I wasn't going to go short, but maybe if it does some shit like this, and it can kind of just retest 478, 83, I might do it. So don't be like, you know, don't freak out if you see me taking puts underneath 470, 83. It doesn't mean I'm breaking rules or anything like that. It just means that I think that there's an opportunity there for a decent short, right? Just like $7 or so, and then I'll flip long. But yeah, just wanted to jump on here, go over everything again. Not really much has changed. So don't really think that, you know, I'm kind of flipping everything up entirely. I'll probably not do what I did again today, where I went into pre-market and I started to search around and I thought I found something with SMCI. I probably won't do that again. I think all these charts that I have here are pretty good, right? I think they're all going to kind of carry. And yeah, not really a point to take my eyes off these ones. So hope you guys enjoyed this scan tonight. Sorry if it got a little bit boring again. I know it got pretty hot for a minute there where a lot of our stuff was working. That's how this is working, and I've told you guys this is kind of like a swing trader market. I'm not really changing how I trade. I'm just kind of adjusting with the market, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job with that. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, right? So we have FOMC minutes, and then we have CPI on Thursday, and along with like the Tesla Robotaxi event tomorrow, we have AMD's AI event. So we have a lot going on for this the remainder of this week. So just trade safe, play it smart, have time behind you, and you'll be all right.